To Be an Adventurer. Authored by Gail O. Vaughn. Narrated by Gail O. Vaughn. Chapter 7. Makae City. Three days have passed since Rota and Rungar decided to travel together. They are traveling to the town of one of Rota's old friends from the academy. There, they hope to be able to find a way to bring life back to the book that Rota's father gave him. The day was early, or at least Rota seemed to think so, as Rungar stood over his lifeless body. "Rota!" Rungar's voice boomed. There was no response. "We could probably get to the town by noon, if you just wake up." Ugh. Rota's lazy bones growled back. "It's just barely sunrise, though," Rota complained. "The sun and I have been up for hours. Time for you to as well," Rungar demanded. His patience grew tired with each passing day that he had to wake Rota up. Several hours had elapsed before Rota decided to join the world of the living. By this time, it was already past noon. Rota and Rungar began walking again. For several hours, they would walk. Rota had come to know the life of an adventurer to be a boring one, but at least he had Rungar. Rungar wasn't much of a talker. Despite this, Rota didn't seem to have any difficulty starting a conversation with him. It was their differences that made their conversations interesting. Rota was surprisingly interested in learning about Rungar's culture. Their long talks throughout each day was a new experience for the both of them. Rota with an orc, and Rungar with a human. After a few hours, Rota and Rungar feel as if they are finally close to the town. Suddenly, something broke the bore of walking for several hours on end. Two figures from either side of the road shot out in front of them, blocking the road. The figures wore red cloaks with the hoods down, revealing their faces. One of them was a woman, in her mid-30s, with a very prominent scar on her face that made it hard to look at anything else. It looked as if she had taken a vertical slash to her face, taking out an eye. She wore an eye patch. Beside her was a young boy, around Rota's age. The young boy was the first to speak. "Can you please state your purpose for entering Makae City?" "We're just passing through to visit a friend," Rota says. The lady with the scar immediately replies, almost interrupting Rota. "No, the orc." Rota looks towards Rungar. His face doesn't even flinch. He instead pulls out a card from his wallet and hands it off to the lady. 3-star access. How did you get this?" That card is a certificate signed by many major orcish leaders within the Tikar territory. "I was sent here to give an urgent message to the king," Rungar replies. The woman looks down at the card, then back up to Rungar. "I apologize for not trusting someone of your kind, but may I know what the message that you were sending to the king was?" "I'm sorry, ma'am," Rungar says. "It's classified." Rota was confused by this. He knew about the message. Maybe Rungar just didn't trust them. "I figured. 3-star access is pretty hard to come by." She glared at Rungar. The boy spoke up next. "Our shift is almost up. If you would like us to escort you the rest of the way to the city..." "Yes, please," Rungar interjects. Rota was now confused. Rungar obviously didn't trust these people, but also wanted their help. The two guards began to walk Rota and Rungar into Makae City. Upon entering it, Rota noticed something. It was just like Purple City. Its roads were paved in cobblestone, and the buildings were so tall as to scrape the bottom of the sky. He didn't think there were cities like this in the common realm. The young boy turned to Rota. "Who exactly are you looking for?" "We're looking for a man named Semo Owakado. He came here to apprentice at a runic shop, but I can't remember the name." "Well then, how would you like to come back to our guild hall? There, we could get you a map to find all the different runic shops in the city. It is the place where we tell every newcomer to the city to go for more information." "Yes," Rungar says. "What guild are you from?" Rota asked. "We are from the Legion of Flaming Lords Guild," the boy responded. "One of the best in the country," the woman proclaimed. Rota had heard of them before. His father looked up to several of its members. Motoka even has some friends that were Flaming Lords. The group began to walk through the city towards the Flaming Lords Guild Hall. But something was off about Rungar. It seemed as if Rungar was consistently checking over his shoulder. Every turn onto a new street was prefaced by a moment of slight hesitation. "Rungar isn't scared of humans, is he?" Rota thought. As the group walked down the streets of Makae, the citizens started taking notice of Rungar. The people, if they were in the group's path, would cross the street so as to not come into contact with Rungar. Eventually, the group made it to the Flaming Lords Guild Hall. The building was tall, almost as tall as the Purple Roses Guild Hall. It wasn't the same shape, though. It was almost rectangular, different from the pyramid of the Purple Roses. The Flaming Lord's Guild Hall was a nice, deep crimson, unlike the red on the Purple Roses Guild Hall, which Rota thought made it look ominous and a little frightening. The red on the Flaming Lord's Guild Hall struck Rota as prideful and empowering. The Flaming Lord's Guild Hall, like the Purple Roses, had a banner that hung over the building. It also had words written in gold around it. The words said, "With the heat of the sun." The banner depicted a mountain range, with a storm of fire swirling above it. The group walked into the guild hall. The woman turned to the young boy and told him to fetch a map. He complied hastily, with no question. The woman turned back to Rota and Rungar. Rungar then said something unexpected. "Ego turu nedabado." Rota recognized this as a runic phrase, meaning, "I need to speak with you." While Rota didn't know much runic, he did know this one phrase. Moltoka taught him this phrase. It was to be used around an adventurer, telling them that you need to speak with them, and not letting the people that are around you know. This confused Rota. What does Rungar have to hide from me? Suddenly, the woman stepped closer to Rungar. "Step away from the orc," she said towards Rota. She had her hand on her still-sheathed sword. "I'm going to need to take you in for questioning. Do not resist." Rota knew this was all an act. He remembers his father saying something about how a guild would do anything to get you into custody after you say that, even if it means lying to everyone around you. Rungar complies, stepping closer to the woman. With the intention of following her. Just then, the boy returned with a map. "Escort that boy to wherever he needs to go," the woman commanded, pointing at Rota. "Yes, ma'am," he replies, grabbing Rota's arm and bringing him outside.